thank you all for coming today. I wanted to make what I'm considering to be a sort of a definitive statement on Senate Bill 83. I've been getting a lot of calls over the weekend and this week on what the status is, and I want to provide some commentary on that. I guess one of the first things I want to clear up is that this Bill 83 is not being substituted by the Campus Act, also known as House Bill 606. That is going to be on the agenda today, that we will be dealing with it both in the House and the Senate, but it is not, I do not view it as any kind of a substitute to Senate Bill 83. So as I think you all know, the House does not have it on the agenda today, Senate Bill 83. And even after a flurry of work in the last several weeks by a lot of people to try to address questions and provide commentary to House members who are asking questions about it, but it still did not make it on the agenda. So I want to thank, first of all, Chairman Young and Representative Seitz for their working with me and my staff over the last several weeks and going all the way back to last November, December, as we prepared the final bill for the House committee. And they really did a lot of work on this, and they are both big believers in the necessity of passing this bill. I'd also like to thank many of the university trustees who have contacted me about 83, and many of the presidents of our public universities who have personally expressed support for Senate Bill 83. Those who haven't contacted me from those two categories have, I think, missed an opportunity to courageously support real higher education reform here in the state of Ohio. Yesterday, as you know, the House agenda came out, and I was disappointed that it was not included. But I did hear from a third party, a credible third party, that the Speaker would like to work with me and with Chairman Young over the summer to work on this bill. I'm not sure what that means exactly. So today, I am here to respectfully decline to participate in any such discussions with the Speaker or anyone on his staff on this bill. And let me explain my rationale for that decision. The House has had the bill for over a year. We worked on it last summer and in the early fall, and it passed, I believe on December 8th, 7th or 8th, it passed the House committee with a lot of changes. We got to a -11 bill, which is what the House committee passed out in December. Between December and April, I sent the Speaker 13 text messages on subjects related to this bill. Copies of articles that I read that I thought he would be interested in seeing, or just commentary on the bill or aspects of the bill that I thought would be relevant. And I received not one single response from those 13 text messages. That was between December and April. In December, I met with the Speaker for an hour and went over all the details of the bill. We had a good discussion. I thought it went very well. He told the media 2 hours later, some of you may have been there, that this was a priority bill for him. So that was 6 months ago, and absolutely, other than some discussions that I have had with Representative Seitz and Chairman Young, absolutely nothing in the House has happened on Senate Bill 83. I have not received word that there were some particular issues in the bill that the Speaker was unhappy with. Nothing came to me at all. Absolutely zero input. Ohio needs higher education reform, and the time to display leadership in the House on this bill has come and gone. That's why I'm not interested and will not participate in discussions respectfully during the summer. What I'm going to do, along with Senate Bill 83, the two of us are going to enjoy the summer, and we're going to wait for a more favorable environment in the House before 83 comes back to discussion. So at that, I will be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I guess when do you anticipate that favorable environment happening, like lame duck or next year?
Could be either of those two. Could be either of those two. I think who knows how to predict what the lame duck is going to look like? this year, but it could be either, and I will be prepared for either of those two.
Do you believe Speaker Stevens on his contention that there aren't enough votes in the House to even get the bill through?
I'm not in the House. I've heard from very credible people in the House that there are the votes. And now, and let's understand something here. That's when I talk about the time for leadership on this bill has come and gone. That, you know, when the Speaker or the Senate President decides to get behind a bill, that's the bill that they push in their respective caucus. And I think you know, it would have been great, and I fully expected after he told me it was a priority bill, or told the media, that he would get behind the bill. And I think we could have easily gotten in excess of 60 votes, quite frankly. But he just decided never to get behind it, and that's his choice, certainly. And but there's nothing for me to really talk about over the summer. You know, I don't know what issues he might have, but it's just, you know, I would be negotiating with myself, because we have already made a number of concessions in the last 12 months to the House to get support in the House.
So to clarify, you think the reason why there might not be enough support in the House is because Stevens hasn't rallied?
I think it's been contributory, sure. Yes.
My question is about Borton.
Okay.
I guess then I'll ask too. Tell me, you know, if this comes back, are you going to be willing to make the same changes, or I guess what you've called concessions, to the bill to try to make it more palatable to the House, or will you stay?
Well, sure. Good question. Going back to the first question, it depends when this comes up. If it comes up in lame duck, it will likely be the bill as it is today. It could have some changes, I suppose, but I don't expect very many, and I'm not really going to be open to many changes. If it starts fresh in the new GA, then all bets are off, and we will be, the bill will look different than it does today.
And are you betting on the fact that Senate President Matt Huffman will be the next Speaker of the House when you say a more favorable environment?
That certainly would be a more favorable environment. I think most people would say yes.
How does refusing to talk to the Speaker now get you any closer to a vote?
Well,
Isn't it essentially giving up for now?
Well, look, at some point, one has to step back and look at reality, and there has been, you know, non-responsiveness on his part. Again, his choice. I respect his decisions to do that. He's the Speaker of the House. But at some point, you know, you stop negotiating with yourself if the other party won't even tell you what it is they want. And so there's no purpose in wasting that time. I've already probably wasted a lot of time that I shouldn't have, trying to make concessions and trying to be conciliatory in bringing this together.
But if there's, Joe, and
Some of your Republican lawmakers have said that the reason that they are hesitant on this bill is because it would tie the hands of university presidents or universities to do some things that they do as far as security, that kind of stuff. What about that?
It doesn't tie their hands, and I've talked with a lot of the university presidents. I'm very close to all of them, and in the community colleges, we don't want to leave them out as well. They're impacted by the bill. Look, this bill has probably undergone, at least in my 4 years here, I'm a short-time legislator, okay? I have not seen a bill that has undergone so much misinformation as this bill. Some of it purposeful, some of it just misinterpretations of what it does and what it doesn't do. This bill is about creating more speech opportunities, about creating an environment in our universities of more opportunities for diverse opinions to be expressed. So I've been accused of promoting something that is limiting speech. How could something that creates more speech and more subject matter for speech at the same time reduce free speech? It just doesn't work out logically. So, and it doesn't tie the hands of the presidents. I mean, if you look at the bill in detail, a lot of what's in this bill provide management tools for the presidents who they came in this room, 14 of them came in to testify on not only on their budget request of almost $400 million cumulatively, or $300 million for the universities. They came in here to tell us about the headwinds that they're facing with not only demographics and changes in workforce demands and that sort of thing. And this bill provides them with additional tools to be able to manage the changing environment that they're dealing with here. And right now, with the shared governance concept taken to its extreme, no president can make good decisions in less than a couple of years that are going to be responsive to the changes that they're facing. So we're not trying to eliminate shared governance. Certainly, the faculties have a right to have a say in key things, but we need to give our presidents more, and their boards, a little more flexibility to be able to deal with the changes that they're facing. If they're going to be successful in the future, if we don't change higher education and how it's managed, they're going to be roadkill. If you don't change or respond to change, you're not going to survive very long.
The anti-strike provision was taken out of the bill, but there are still some provisions in there that limit collective bargaining in certain aspects. Are you still getting pushback on that? Or are you getting...
Sure. And that was fully expected. And look, that's part of the management tools for the boards and the presidents that I was just referring to, is that, if we have situations around our state institutions where, I think it's Wright State that has 4 French majors and has 4 tenured French faculty, okay? We have other situations and other examples I could give you where we have courses of major courses that simply don't have the student demand or the students, signing up for those majors. And the presidents are required to maintain the same level of faculty support, and we call that retrenchment, and that's in the bill. And yes, it has an impact on collective bargaining, but we need to give our presidents and their boards the ability to make movements and changes to meet the changing needs that their institutions are facing. And if we tie their hands and they're tied to a multi-year process of making adjustments, they're not going to be able to respond well.
Doesn't this tie their hands in a different way?
How would that be?
By putting into code the ban on collective bargaining on certain issues.
No, I don't think it ties their hands. I think it gives them more flexibility. I don't see how it would tie their hands. Anyone else? Yes.
Members of the AAUP and other unions, they're still against this legislation.
Mm-hmm.
They say it will have a chilling effect on higher education in Ohio. Faculty will leave, student enrollment will go down. Why don't you see it that way, and what have your conversations with those unions been like?
Well, we haven't had many conversations. They've been talking at me most of the time, and they've been well represented in the hearings that we've had. You may recall a 7.5-hour hearing I had a year ago, right? That was not the longest maybe on record, but pretty close. We heard from a lot of AAUP members, and so I know what they think, and I know why they think what they do. And they like to use the word chilling. Anything that challenges the status quo has a chilling effect on something. That's the way they operate. And I understand why they don't like some of the aspects of this bill, but they need to be thinking about what's best for the students, what's best for the student environment. We have a situation where our campuses have not allowed for or even preferred or promoted a diversity of speech, diversity of thought. That's the best kind of campus that we need to have here for our students, and taxpayers want that. We're not getting that. We are left of center pretty much across the board. We have very high rates of student self-censorship on the conservative side, and we don't want to have that. We're not promoting one side or the other. It should be as neutral as possible, and this bill is to try to push that. I'm also happy to say that today at this hearing and later this afternoon on the floor of the Senate, we will consent to the 5th of the 5 civics institutes that we set up last year in the budget. And we approved Wright State's board in the committee today. It'll be on the floor this afternoon. And those institutes, 5 of them, we're the only state in the union that has more than 2 of these institutes in the state system. We're now going to have 5. And that's going to help us, get things moved more to the center, and also help with civics education, which we're not getting enough of. One of the comments that some of the professor groups have made is that academic freedom would be challenged by the aspect in the bill that calls for a 3-hour course requirement for a bachelor's degree in civics or American history, right? That is the biggest chilling effect on academic freedom, to educate our students about our country and our history. the good, the bad, and the ugly of our history, of course. I think that's a reach. I think it's a good thing. Students I talk to all the time are not reacting negatively to the prospect of taking a 3-hour course.
It doesn't say anything that a fraction of supporters have come out and testified in comparison to opponents of this legislation.
Well, that's a great point, and I will tell you that I've had, during the course since I started a year ago in March with this bill, and even when I did 135 in the last General Assembly, students and faculty members calling me left and right, some coming in to see me, who I asked if they would testify, who would not testify for fear of retribution, either by other faculty or students, et cetera. And that alone strengthened my resolve to try to address this issue, because I don't care where you are in the political spectrum, you should not have to hesitate to make your opinions known about things. You shouldn't have to worry about losing your job or being ostracized at cocktail parties. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Governor DeWine recently said that he could see himself signing the bill if there were changes that were made to it. He did not elaborate to us what the changes that he was referring to were. Have you had conversations with him about changes?
I've had conversations with his staff. I did have a brief conversation with him, but I think I will let his communications people respond, but I can tell you, without attempting to speak for the governor, which I certainly don't, that I think that comment was made without realizing that the changes that they had requested late last year had already been incorporated into the bill. So the word I got from the governor's office is that they are satisfied with the bill as it is today.
What were some of the changes that they requested?
We had some conversations about the length of trustee terms. I think the governor in an earlier conversation with me indicated that 9 years was tough. It's tough to recruit people to make a 9-year commitment. For the universities, the community colleges have different terms. So we had, in my original bill, as you may recall, I had it at 4 years. So we settled on 6 years, and we were both happy with that. There were some other things that he was concerned that maybe we would inadvertently impact private colleges and universities. We got that cleared up, and we changed some language, but it was technical in nature.
Do you intend to bring back the strike ban provision next session if the bill does not pass this session?
I'm thinking about that. I don't know yet. I haven't, we're here we are right now with a lot of things going on today, and I just learned yesterday that it was not going to be taken up in the House. So I'm working on strategies and options that we have for if we have to go into the next GA.
Do you think national trends about speech on college campuses may have affected how this bill is received?
Well, I can tell you when I introduced the bill a year ago in March, we were one of the top 2 states in terms of willingness to do aggressive higher education reform. Because we've taken so long here, we passed this in the Senate in 3 months. Because it's taken so long sitting in the House for a year, that other states have actually, moved ahead of us in reforms that are very similar in nature to 83. I've always been a critic of, we hear testimony all the time about Ohio being in the middle of the pack all the time on any number of issues. We had a chance to be out front here on higher education reform to make it better in Ohio, and we have allowed too much time to lapse now. And I don't know what the exact calculation is, but we're definitely not in the top 2 or 3 anymore. Other states have moved ahead of us, and quite frankly, I don't like that. I like to see Ohio out in front of things, being aggressive and trying new things to deal with, existing problems. Yes?
Why not? I mean, some situations have changed in Jason Stevens' life. He no longer has control over his campaign money. I think that it's getting closer and closer to the speaker election. Why not just sit down for an hour and hear what he has to say?
Well, that's a legitimate question. I think I addressed it earlier. Look, I've had conversations. I've had text messages. I've had conversations with members of his team. And we have had, last year, at the end of last year, we had negotiations on a number of things that, with Representative Seitz kind of leading the pack, and we made a lot of changes, particularly on the ability to protect the tenure of some professors who might have been otherwise put in jeopardy during a retrenchment process. So we made those, we made those adjustments, and it's been crickets for 7 months, and I can tell you that, quite frankly, it was kind of disappointing that I got this feedback on the willingness to sit down during the summer from a third party, not directly from the speaker. So I just don't think it would be productive, quite frankly. I value my time and the time of my staff, and we have other things to work on, and I think we're just going to let this sit and ruminate for a little bit and take it up at the right time again.
Just a quick follow-up to that. When you talk about this third party, was this third party a member of the Stevens faction, or would you consider it to be somebody in the opposition?
It was not a legislator. It was somebody on the outside.
Real quick, any thoughts about whether this will be offered as a House amendment today, or is that something that you don't anticipate?
I don't know. Not being in the House caucus, they don't kind of tell me what they're going to do. So I don't know. I'm not anticipating that. It would be nice if it would be brought up. It would be a surprise to me, and I would welcome that, certainly, unless they throw all kinds of amendments to it that we'd have to take a look at. But I'm not expecting that today.
Some lawmakers who are part of Stevens' camp have mentioned that this is anti-union and that's why they are against it. There is more support, it seems, for unions in the House than there is in the Senate. Do you think that this is really about the unions? And do you think that maybe if you took anything related to bargaining out, it would actually pass?
It probably would. In fact, some people have mentioned that to me in the last couple of weeks. And, that's like saying if you take the heart out of the patient will be fine. Okay? The management tools that are implicit in some of the labor-related issues are critical to the bill. If we don't give the presidents and the boards of trustees, who we're trying to empower more now, to take control of their policies, it becomes a much less important bill. And I think it would impact the reforms that we need to have in Ohio higher ed big time.
You have another committee.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just real quickly.
One last.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that conservative students have told you that they're having to self-censor.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you kind of have an idea what sort of topics and opinions that they are having to self-censor in college games.
Well, we get some, there's a study, and my office can make the study available to you. It's done every year at Ohio State. And if I remember it correctly, the self-censorship is like 70% plus. It's very high. And it has to do in classroom settings where they feel they have to, or I suppose in some social settings as well, that they feel like they cannot let their conservative opinions be known for fear of their grade, or either their total grade or the grade on a paper. And that shouldn't be the case. I mean, faculty should be neutral. They should be teaching our students how to think, not what to think.
Laura, last question.
Just a clarification. Yeah. You've used this term, I can't find it, but I think it's like joint governance or dual governance or something.
Shared governance.
Shared, okay. So that's faculty making decisions in their own departments as well as the university administration?
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's a concept that's used in academia. And it's been around for a long time. And I understand the concept of it. It's applied differently at different institutions. And so it depends on, the faculty senates and how strong they are or how interested they are in getting involved in the details. But again, I understand the concept, but it has to flex a little bit in giving the presidents a little bit more flexibility to deal with things more rapidly. Nothing moves at the paces it did in the 1900s, okay? Everything's different today.
All right, thank you,
all right,
everybody.
thank you all very much.
Yeah.